already proving with archaeological evidence that everything that was written about this temple was wrong.
She was a mother, she was a wife, she was a queen, she was a goddess.
And we are trying to find out what it led us.
Cleopatra's tomb was the one mystery no archaeologist expected to solve, until a new survey west of Alexandria revealed a hidden chamber sealed for over 2,000 years. What scientists found inside wasn't gold or a royal sarcophagus, but evidence that Cleopatra's final days were far more secretive and dangerous than history ever recorded. And what they uncovered in that chamber is shaking the entire archaeological world to its core.
I never seen something like this.
The queen who refused to die. For more than 2,000 years, Cleopatra III has remained one of history's most studied rulers. She was the last pharaoh of Egypt, a strategist who faced Rome, ruled with intelligence, and built an image powerful enough to survive centuries of retelling. Yet one part of her story has remained unresolved. Roman accounts describe her burial as befitting a queen, but none reveal where it took place. For archaeologists, that absence became more than a mystery. It became an obsession that spanned generations. Ancient Egyptian priests left behind cryptic descriptions of her final rites. They wrote that she was a bride returning to Osiris, and that her union was unseen by men. Historians have debated these phrases for centuries. Some believe the priests were describing a secret ritual performed deep within a sanctuary. Others believe the words were deliberate instructions meant to hide her body forever. Each new expedition claimed to be close to the truth, but every lead collapsed into speculation. In 1972, a Soviet seismic team conducted ground tests near Lake Mariote, a shallow saltwater basin southwest of Alexandria, Egypt, while searching for oil. Their sensors picked up rhythmic vibrations beneath the limestone. The signal faint but steady, too consistent for natural earthquakes and too weak to come from machinery. Local residents began calling the area Ab al-Nafas, meaning the place that breathes. The team filed the results, but the readings were never analyzed further. When the project ended, the data was archived and forgotten. The anomaly was ignored for simple reasons. Funding ended, political tension rose, and research priorities shifted. The Cold War left little interest in a strange rhythm buried under Egyptian sand. For 3 decades, the data remained untouched, waiting for someone to rediscover it. That rediscovery happened in the early 2000s, when new satellite scans focused on the same ridge. The images revealed geometric shapes hidden beneath the surface, clean, symmetrical, and too precise to be natural. Thermal and radar imaging showed that the shapes extended several meters deep. According to analysts, they resembled parts of an artificial structure, possibly a buried complex. Some experts dismissed the images as interference, but others believed they had found a pattern worth investigating. When researchers traced the formations on a digital grid, the outline resembled the ancient Egyptian Ankh, the symbol of life. It was not a visible carving, but a shape revealed only through the satellite data. Reports suggested that the pattern extended toward a plateau once associated with the goddess Isis. Cleopatra often called herself the living Isis, and that connection reignited the debate. By then, the theory had shifted. The hunt for Cleopatra was no longer about chasing a legend. It had become a scientific investigation. The satellite data hinted at heat signatures beneath the sand, and localized soil readings confirmed traces of ancient plaster and resin, substances rarely found in untouched desert terrain. What began as a myth about Egypt's last queen was turning into a mission. Within months, Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities approved a ground expedition to examine the site in person. None of them knew that when they arrived, the desert would start to move. The desert that shifted. Only a few weeks after the ministry gave permission for the ground mission, a combined team of skilled scientists, archaeologists, and engineers reached the coordinates west of Lake Mariotte. Within just hours of installing their monitoring devices, something occurred that none of them could logically explain. The sensors started picking up a slow, steady vibration coming from far beneath the ground. The signal repeated itself every 42 seconds with perfect timing. At first, the researchers assumed it had to be an equipment issue. They swapped out the tools, recalibrated every sensor, and even checked the area for any nearby construction. But the rhythm stayed the same. Every 42 seconds, the identical pulse returned. It wasn't a malfunction. It was rising from the Earth itself. When the data was reviewed again, one person noticed something unsettling. In ancient Egyptian belief, the number 42 had sacred importance. It represented the 42 divine judges who decided the destiny of souls in the afterlife. The link was enough to make some team members uneasy. A few laughed it off as coincidence, but others started questioning what kind of natural force could beat with such perfect regularity. To get a clearer understanding of the strange event, the team began scanning the ridge at night with thermal imaging. The results surprised everyone. Under the dunes, streaks of lingering heat showed curved outlines, bending, branching, and reconnecting like passages. When drones surveyed the area the next morning, faint ridges appeared that matched the same shapes. When the team plotted the scans together, the lines formed an enormous rectangular design. Its proportions were nearly identical to temple structures dating back to Cleopatra's era. Core samples were taken to confirm the findings. The upper sand layers looked ordinary, but deeper down, they found bits of plaster and clear traces of bitumen. These were not natural substances. They were ancient sealing materials used in Egypt to protect royal or sacred chambers. The discovery immediately triggered debate. Some members believed the team had finally uncovered a hidden structure. Others insisted the results could easily be the result of soil mixing, accidental contamination, or random geological formations, nothing more than coincidence rather than evidence of human construction. Local villagers warned the team that disturbing the ground would awaken whatever rests beneath it. Most of the scientists ignored the warnings, but that confidence disappeared after the next event. One night, the security cameras recorded the sand itself moving. The video showed faint ripples traveling across the surface in the same timed rhythm as the pulse below. It wasn't caused by wind, and it wasn't a trick of the light. The synchronization was exact. The workers who watched the footage refused to sleep anywhere near the ridge afterward. Over the following days, the tremors intensified. Progress on the project froze as fears spread through the camp. The Ministry of Antiquities stepped in and ordered a controlled excavation led by Dr. Kathleen Martinez, a highly regarded archaeologist famous for her research into Cleopatra's possible burial sites. When she arrived, she quietly examined all the footage. Her only statement was simple and unsettling. "If this is what I think, we're standing right above something she meant for us to uncover." The excavation started at sunrise. By the third day, the desert began to split and shift. Under the collapsing dunes, stone emerged, smooth, carved, and unmistakably ancient. It was the first solid evidence that something crafted by human hands had remained hidden under that ground, untouched for more than 2,000 years. The temple that spoke in 2 languages. At first glance, it seemed like nothing more than the remains of another ruined structure from Egypt's later dynasties. But once the dust finally settled, the carvings on the stone walls revealed something completely different. The inscriptions identified the place as Taposiris Magna, the great burial site of Osiris, For the team, that single name transformed the entire discovery. In ancient belief, Osiris was the god of rebirth, lord of the underworld, and the one who granted life after death. If this was truly his resting place, then the ground beneath them was sacred, possibly even royal. For years, certain historians had suspected that Cleopatra chose this very region for her burial. She often described herself as the living form of Isis, the divine wife of Osiris. Being laid to rest beside him in a temple built for his eternal resurrection would have symbolically connected her own death to divine immortality. The temple sat about 45 kilometers from Alexandria's coastline, in the same region where ancient texts placed Cleopatra in her final days. The area was scattered with fallen columns and the broken remains of towering stone gateways that had once framed its entrance. Even after centuries of wind and wear, the carvings on the inner walls were still visible beneath the lights. As the team inspected the engravings more closely, something unusual stood out. The inscriptions were written in two languages. Egyptian hieroglyphs appeared right beside ancient Greek lettering, carved with the same level of precision and care. That detail stopped the researchers cold. Egyptian temples almost never blended languages, especially in religious spaces. Dr. Kathleen Martinez immediately understood the significance. Cleopatra's rule existed between two worlds, the Greek-speaking monarchs who governed Egypt and the Egyptian priests who protected its sacred traditions. Seeing the two languages carved together suggested that Cleopatra herself had ordered the temple's design. To Martinez, the structure reflected the queen's dual identity, part Greek ruler, part Egyptian goddess. Artifacts found around the site only fueled the growing speculation. Coins bearing Cleopatra's profile were discovered next to statues of Isis holding a falcon, the ancient symbol of renewal. Chemical analysis on the altar showed faint traces of blue lotus resin and bitumen, both ingredients associated with royal embalming practices. According to reports, the workers fell silent, realizing they were holding objects that had been hidden from light for more than 2,000 years. Ground sensors soon picked up a faint hum rising from deep within the limestone. The frequency was too low for the human ear, but the monitors showed slow, steady waves. Each pulse repeated every 42 seconds, the same exact rhythm detected weeks earlier in the desert. Engineers searched for interference, but the signal never wavered. The readings were genuine. The temple was no longer silent stone. It was producing a measurable vibration, almost as if something beneath it was sending a message through the rock. Field notes from the team reported that several workers claimed they could feel a soft trembling under their feet. The vibrations grew stronger with every new scan. Each fresh reading pointed toward something deeper, something hidden beneath the base of Taposiris Magna. Driven by equal parts fascination and fear, the team resolved to follow the hum down into the bedrock. What they uncovered next would eventually be known as the Impossible Tunnel. The Corridor of Rebirth. The hum beneath Taposiris Magna grew stronger with every scan. The team traced it to a layer of limestone deep under the temple floor. When ground-penetrating radar was used, the image that appeared on the monitors made the room fall silent. Beneath the sanctuary was a tunnel carved through solid rock, straight, smooth, and perfectly level for over a kilometer. Even modern engineers would have struggled to achieve that kind of precision. At first, the researchers thought the readings were wrong, but when a small camera was lowered through a narrow borehole, the feed confirmed it. The lens revealed a corridor with curved ceilings and walls polished like glass. It looked man-made, yet it showed no tool marks, no signs of collapse, no cracks from time or pressure. Someone thousands of years ago had created it and then sealed it perfectly. When Martinez reviewed the images, she noticed something repeating along the walls, carvings in both Greek and Egyptian forming the same phrase again and again, Ankh Ren, which means life renewed. She suggested the tunnel represented a ritual passage, a path designed to guide the dead through resurrection. The team drilled deeper, following the signal to what appeared to be a sealed chamber. The scanners showed a circular cavity ahead, roughly 20 meters wide, with a temperature higher than the rock around it, as if the stone itself had once been burned from within. They began cutting through the final wall. The sound that followed wasn't the crack of stone, but something heavier, lower. A vibration that could be felt in the chest. When the barrier finally gave way, a blast of air escaped, sharp and cold. It carried the scent of resin and metal, like something ancient that had been trapped for centuries. The dust cleared, and the team shone their lights inside. What they saw was not a simple tomb. The walls were covered in a black, glassy layer that reflected their lights. It looked less like carved stone and more like rock that had been melted by fire. When the team lifted their lights toward the ceiling, they saw hundreds of tiny blue stones pressed into the surface. Later analysis confirmed they were made from a mineral called lapis lazuli, a rare stone once used in royal tombs. The pieces had been arranged to form patterns of stars, creating scenes that showed the goddess Isis standing over the body of Osiris. Her hands were raised as beams of light connected her to the stars above him. The ceiling was not just decoration. It was a story carved in stone, showing the moment the gods brought life back from death. But the warnings carved into the walls told another story. In both Greek and Egyptian, the same line repeated again and again, "Disturb the union, and the balance shall break." Near the floor, half hidden under soot, another message appeared. "Blood shall drip from the left eye down." No one wanted to read it aloud. Some thought it was an offering ritual. Others thought it was a curse. Either way, the room grew quiet. Everywhere they looked, there were signs of careful sealing. Veins of mercury and lead ran through the plaster. The air smelled faintly of resin. Broken jars lined the corners, and beneath one column, a small golden scarab was found engraved with a prayer. "Bind the soul to its body." Martinez studied it in silence before saying that this chamber was not built to display the dead. It was built to contain them. At the center stood a raised platform of fused stone. Two biers sat side by side, their surfaces glazed as if burned by intense heat. Between them rested a bronze cylinder, about the length of a forearm, etched with spirals that shimmered under the light. One of the researchers swore he saw the outline of a tear carved into the metal, exactly where the wall had warned of blood falling from the left eye. As Martinez approached, the floor trembled. The pulse that had haunted their readings for weeks was now so strong that it could be felt through their boots. The air pressed against their chests, and some of the team backed away. Martinez ordered everyone to stop digging and start safety tests. Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. "This isn't just a tomb," she said quietly. "It's responding to us." They moved to the edge of the hall and waited, but the readings kept rising. The pulse quickened, as though something beneath the floor had awakened. Something that had been waiting for this moment. The circle of the dead. The passage beyond the sarcophagus tightened and curved sharply to the right. The team moved slowly, lights steady and masks secured. The corridor widened into a circular chamber whose walls were carved with shallow recesses. Inside each recess sat a single skull, upright on a stone ledge, all facing the center of the room. No bodies, no coffins, only skulls. They counted 36 in total, 12 that appeared male. 12 that appeared female, and 12 that were unmistakably children. The sight locked the entire group in place. Dust drifted in the beams of their lamps. No one dared to speak. Each skull's eye sockets were coated with a fine golden dust that shimmered like grit under the light. Later, swabs revealed traces of blue lotus resin, the exact same substance found in the embalming chamber. Several field notes described the effect as simple and horrifying. The skulls looked arranged, not forgotten. Every one of them stared toward a small stone platform in the center of the floor. The platform was etched with the symbol of the Ankh, the Egyptian sign for life. Resting on top were two tiny bronze cups that had fused together from intense heat. One of the cups contained a thin layer of dried black residue that later tested positive for human blood. A band of text ran over the alcoves in both Greek and Egyptian. It read, "They guard the passage and keep the balance." Some archaeologists said it sounded like a prayer to Isis, protector of the underworld. Others believed it carried a far colder meaning, a sign that the dead here were not resting peacefully, but standing watch over something beneath the floor. The arrangement of the remains was intentional. Every skull was missing its lower jaw. Forensic experts who examined the images said it was a deliberate form of decapitation meant to prevent reassembly. The meaning was clear. Whatever this chamber was built to contain, it was never meant to be released. Sensors positioned around the room recorded low electromagnetic spikes that rose and dipped every 42 seconds. The same relentless rhythm that had followed the team since their first day in the desert. The crew felt it as a pressure behind their eyes and a metallic buzz on their tongues. Martinez stepped up to the threshold, then froze. She said she could taste metal. She immediately ordered the chamber sealed. Her final recorded words before the signal failed were, "This is not a tomb. It is a mechanism built from death." News about the chamber spread through universities and ministries within hours. Images leaked onto private forums before officials locked down the site. Reactions were instant and divided. Some demanded the rooms be sealed permanently. Others pushed for every detail to be released publicly. A few asked a more unsettling question. If the circle worked as a functional system, and the skulls had been arranged to maintain balance, then what exactly had the team disrupted by opening the passage? The implications went beyond archaeology. If the 36 individuals were guardians, then Cleopatra's burial was not only a royal ritual, it was a calculated defense. The inscriptions linked the chamber to the concept of balance. The constant pulse matched the number associated with judgment in Egyptian belief. Nothing about the design looked random. Many researchers suggested the entire layout was built as a living structure, meant to keep functioning long after the mourners were gone. That led to one final possibility that unsettled even the skeptics. Maybe Cleopatra was not only the political figure shaped by Roman accounts. Maybe she was a strategist who engineered her afterlife as a device, not merely a shrine. Some believe she designed a burial that couldn't be violated without consequence. Others argue she created a warning that would still react when disturbed. If Cleopatra crafted her tomb as a weapon instead of a monument, what do you think she was trying to protect? Her legacy or something far greater? Share your theory in the comments below. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.